Today, we're going to explore a different kind of mental health lab. So forget the sterile rooms and beakers. This is a real-world clinic where every single patient's journey is actually helping to build a smarter future for everyone.
But first, you have to start with the central challenge, and it's a big one. You see, for young people who are facing not just one, but often multiple overlapping mental health conditions, the path to getting effective care can feel like you're just navigating without a map. So the real question is, how do we build a better one?
And the answer might be deceptively simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. What if, instead of trying to perfectly isolate variables in some sterile lab, we learn directly from the messy, complex reality of clinical care as it's happening right now?
Okay, so to really get why this approach is such a game changer, we first need to understand the problem it's designed to solve, and that is a critical gap in how we approach youth mental health. Here's the deal. Traditional research, well, it often relies on these highly controlled studies. They might focus on a single diagnosis and have super strict rules about who can even participate. But in the real world, young adults often have a complex mix of conditions. Think anxiety, depression, and OCD all at once. The neat little boxes of traditional research just don't fit, and that leaves us with a major blind spot.
In this study, it's focusing on a particularly critical window of time. That transition from being a teenager to a full-on adult, ages 16 to 30, that's a period of immense change. But what's really significant here is the inclusion of 16 and 17-year-olds. This is a group that's almost never included in this type of inpatient research, which gives us this incredibly rare opportunity to learn about care during that late adolescent period.
So you've got this huge evidence gap for a really critical age group. What do? Well, researchers at St. Vincent's Private Hospital in Sydney came up with a new strategy, studying care as it unfolds, naturally.
The approach is called a naturalistic evaluation. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like this. Instead of being a scientist in a lab creating a controlled experiment, the researchers are more like wildlife documentarians. They're there to observe, to record, and to learn from the environment exactly as it is, without changing anyone's treatment or interfering with their care at all.
And this is where you really see the difference. A traditional study is kind of like looking at a single puzzle piece under a microscope. It's very controlled, very narrow. This real-world study, on the other hand, is about looking at the entire assembled puzzle. It actually embraces all that complexity to understand the full picture of what truly works and for whom.
And this whole approach has a very practical two-part goal. This isn't just about publishing a paper. First, it's about directly improving the quality of care for patients right now within this service. And second, it's about building a rich library of real-world evidence that can shape mental health care for years and years to come.
So, what does this real-world care actually look like? Well, it turns out the natural environment these researchers are observing is equipped with some incredibly advanced tools.
And listen, these aren't experimental trials. Patients are accessing these technologies as part of their routine care. We're talking about things like transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, which uses targeted magnetic fields to gently stimulate specific brain areas tied to mood. There's also virtual reality exposure therapy, which creates these safe, immersive environments for patients to confront their fears. And even AI-enhanced tools designed to help patients recall and strengthen positive memories, basically building a library of personal resilience.
Of course, with any treatment, safety is absolutely number one, and the study is very transparent about potential side effects. For TMS, that might be a mild headache. For VR, some people might feel a little bit of cyber sickness. But what's important is that these effects are well understood, they're mostly mild, and they are managed with strict safety protocols under constant supervision.
And that focus on safety, it's just one piece of a much bigger ethical framework. The entire study is built on a foundation of respecting patient choice, privacy, and well-being above absolutely everything else.
This quote from the study protocol really says it all. It is crystal clear. Choosing to participate or not has zero impact on the quality or type of care a patient receives. It's an invitation, not a requirement. The patient's clinical journey is always the priority.
And the consent process itself is designed to be completely pressure-free. Patients get all the information, then they're given a full 72-hour period to think it over, talk about it, and only then do they make a completely voluntary choice. It's all about empowering them to make an informed decision that feels right for them.
Now, the way they handle data here is really quite clever. It works on two levels. First, every single patient contributes to improving the service through completely anonymous, de-identified data. We're talking general trends like length of stay. But second,
Only those who give their explicit consent share their detailed, identifiable data for deeper research. It's a system where everyone helps improve the whole, while personal information is shared only by choice.
And for that personal data, you better believe the security is intense. It's all stored on encrypted, secure platforms. They use advanced techniques like privacy-preserving record linkage, which is basically a super high-tech way to link different pieces of a person's data without ever revealing their actual identity. Privacy is baked in at every single step.
So, with all this data being collected so carefully and ethically, what's the long-term vision? Well, this isn't just about a one-time snapshot. It's about building a system that literally learns and improves over time.
The end goal is to create what's called a patient registry. And I want you to think of it like a living, breathing library of knowledge, one that's continuously updated with real-world outcomes. Every patient's journey adds a new volume to the collection, making the entire system smarter and better equipped to help the next person who walks through the door.
The potential here is just enormous. Once this registry is up and running, it becomes this incredibly powerful resource for answering dozens of critical questions. Researchers can compare what works best for different conditions, measure the real-world impact of a technology like VR, or figure out how to better support patients after they leave the hospital. Each question becomes its own mini-project that refines care even further.
And that brings us to this final, really powerful idea. This study completely reimagines the relationship between care and research. It proposes a future where every single treatment, every patient's story, every clinical interaction doesn't just help one person in the here and now, but also contributes to finding the next breakthrough for everyone in the future.